Hey, folks, tonight, I'm excited about tonight's show. It's going to change your life or someone you know or someone you're related to. You've seen the Camp Lejeune crisis all over the news. Well, you know what? Not only is this going to be a life-changing show for you or someone you know or someone you're related to, but today's guest is an answered prayer for anyone that is associated with this disaster in the ways he'll tell you. It's none other. He's a modern-day hero to me. It is Lawrence Land, attorney Lawrence Land. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Brant. I'm so glad to be here. And we're talking about Camp Lejeune. And here's what you need to remember as you're listening to this show. It is the worst environmental disaster in U.S. history, Camp Lejeune.
You know, for people who are seeing this in the news, they're seeing Camp Lejeune, contamination, deaths. The media hasn't done a very good job of covering this until now. Because legislation has recently been passed, and you have had something to do with the people who helped make that happen. Can you tell us about that, Lawrence?
I will. And so let me just start off by telling you in the most cogent way, the most simple way for people to understand. Between 1953 and 1987, that's a 34-year period.
Wow.
Jet fuel, the worst contaminants, the worst chemicals were seeping into the water, the aquifer at Camp Lejeune. And again, that's a 34-year period. And what was happening is they were using Camp Lejeune in different areas as a dumping ground for jet fuel, for pesticides, for mustard gas, nerve gas, chemicals from, they had a, not too far away, they had a dry cleaners, and the chemicals from that were the worst. And these are the chemicals that were causing cancer. And what we're seeing today is so many people have cancer as a result of serving, or they were stationed at, and we're talking about Marines, but not just Marines who were stationed there, their families, their children, people who worked there. Some people lived on the base who were not Marines. Some people who visited and were contractors and brought supplies in to the base. And this is for 34 years that people were drinking contaminated water. They were bathing in contaminated water. The babies were drinking this contaminated water along with their formula. And here's the worst part. Camp Lejeune, the people of Camp Lejeune, the federal government knew about this and never told them. And I have stories galore that will help the listening audience, the people who are watching right now, because I want to share this with you. I'm on a mission to tell the world.
Yes, sir.
You're going to hear a lot of misinformation from lawyers. I'm telling you straight up. I've spent all the time I can researching everything that I can. The law that came into effect, and I'm going to let you ask me questions about this, and it's very important, Brant. This law is brand new. It's brand new.
Right,
it was just signed by President Biden on August the 10th of this year, 2022. You have 2 years to make a claim. We can do all of this for you. We can do it all for you. So I want you to listen up on this, because there's some misinformation on this. And I've talked to so many people who think that they don't have a case. And I can tell you those stories when you're ready for me to tell you those stories, Brant.
Well, you know, folks, the bottom of your screen is the contact number. And as we go through this and we hear some of these stories, you can make contact and take that first step all along the way of this show. Such a tragic thing. And again, Lawrence, so many people are just now hearing this, but you're going to be able to provide some proper context to this. Let's start with one of the stories that you know.
It's absolutely amazing. Let's start with the babies.
Oh.
Let's start with the babies that died at Camp Lejeune. Parents had no idea. Parents have felt guilty all of their lives until just finding out about this now, that in fact they were giving their babies poisonous, toxic water. And that's why these babies died in the womb, in utero. They died shortly after they were born. There are 5 cemeteries in that area in Jacksonville, North Carolina, where these babies were buried 2, 3 deep in one grave. Please understand, everyone, what we're talking about. The travesty that
You
2
know,
or 3 babies who died were buried in one grave because there were so many. It's absolutely the absolute worst disaster. And look at the effect it had on the parents. If you look at some of the gravestones read born 1962, died 1962. What in the world? And it goes on and on forever. And the parents never knew, but they were dying from poisonous water.
that's terrible, Lawrence. You know,
It is. So
again,
you asked me to tell you a story.
Yeah,
And I want to share this with you.
please do.
I was in an art gallery, and I talk to everybody. Always have. I just love it. I love talking with people, interacting with people, and that's just who I am. I love people, and that's one of the reasons I became an injury lawyer, going on probably about 47 years now. I want to help people. I want to help people. And so, sure enough, now that I've learned about this Camp Lejeune situation, I'm talking with a gentleman at an art gallery, nice guy from Ohio. And he asked me what I do. I said, and I used to say I'm Lawrence Land, an injury lawyer. Now I say I'm Lawrence Land, the Camp Lejeune lawyer.
What?
He says, Camp Lejeune? I said, yeah, Camp Lejeune. He says, oh, my parents were there and they died young. He said, we've had a tough time. We've struggled. I said, really? He says, yeah, but you know, this happened back in the 60s. He says, I'm sure it's too late. I said, not anymore. Not anymore. There's a new law and it spans over a number of years. I said, if your parents were there between 53 and 87, let's talk about it. He says, really? I said, yeah. I said, what did they die of? He says, cancer. I said, well, you're an heir. You are an heir. He says, I can make a claim. I said, yes, you can. And here's the interesting thing, Brant. People have cases and they don't know about it. And that's one of the reasons that I'm here today. Spread the word, not just locally, not just nationally. This is international. Okay. So people have gone everywhere who were at the Marine base, these are children of the Marines or children of people who were there on the base, and grandchildren, depending upon the case, have cases as well. And they don't know it. And they call me on the phone and said, I know you can't help me. I've already talked to 2 other lawyers and they said they can't. I said, really? I said, well, I'm glad you called me. I may have a different opinion. And each time I do have a different opinion, I say, come on, I'm your guy. I'm the answer to your prayers. I said, I'm your new best friend. Let's do it. And so I think you'll see on the screen, I'm at 757-787-2222. And you call me. We got a large staff. We're waiting for your call. And it's important that you call because the window to file claims, Brant, is short. When President Biden signed, and this is apolitical. I mean, almost everyone in Congress is all for this because it's the federal government that's going to pay these claims. They finally took responsibility. Started in 53. We're in 2022. Sounds like about 70 years to me. Finally took responsibility, and they're going to pay these claims.
Wow.
And this is important for you to know and for the audience to know as well. The claims that are being filed, assuming that we can show that the illnesses that people have or the deaths that they have, these claims are being filed on behalf of the people who have cancer now or some other serious illness. And I mean, the number of illnesses is growing and growing. But the gentleman I talked to said, I also had a brother and he died. He didn't even make it to 1. I said, you're an heir. You are an heir for your brother, separate claim. These claims are being filed. Wait for it. These claims are being filed for between 10 million and $25 million. This is the biggest case in the entire history of the United States.
You're hearing it right.
Amazing.
You're hearing it right from Lawrence Land, the champion for the victims of Camp Lejeune.
Let me share something else with you. The most important thing I'm going to tell you is this is not a class action suit. And I can't tell you how many lawyers I've heard on TV telling you, oh, this is the biggest class action. No, these cases are being handled individually. They stand on their own, as it should be. It's not class action where you hear all the time, well, all the lawyers make all the money. That's not what's going on here. Okay? Each case is going to be looked at and evaluated for the type of case it is. So if it's a death case or they have leukemia, and I have to share this weekend, I want you to keep on asking me questions, but I know we have a limited period of time, Brant, but this is important. This gentleman started crying as I talked with him. He said, we've suffered all of our lives. I have a brother who died at 50. I said, he's got a claim. What he died? Cancer. Okay? And I'm hearing it all the time because I'm traveling to tell the world about this. It's so important. I've got a great story for you. I was having lunch with a friend of mine and had a nice lunch. I said, let me tell you something. I said, when I tell people I'm helping people with Camp Lejeune cases, I said, I want to tell you about it and you tell me if you know anyone. And all of a sudden he sits back in his chair and he says, oh my God, this is fortuitous that we would have this lunch. I said, why is that? He said, because my roommate at Georgetown became a Marine in 1962. I said, really? He was there till 65. And by the way, don't assume anything. Call me. Even if you were at Camp Lejeune and you're 70 years old, 60 years, whatever you are, and you don't have any symptoms, you don't have any problems, you may have problems and don't know it. Okay? So let me finish that story and I'm going to tell you no. So sure enough, he said, the only thing is we don't know if he was at Camp Lejeune. He never mentioned it to his family. I asked him, but I have a recollection that he was at Camp Lejeune. Can you help me? I said, sure. I've got a few questions I'm going to ask his wife, and we'll find out if he was at Camp Lejeune. There are records, and we will find out. I said, what happened to him? He started to cry. He said, he was my best friend. He died 2 years ago.
Wow.
Esophageal cancer. And we never knew from what. He never smoked a cigarette. What was this from? And now we know. I said, you're daggone right, you know. That's one of the illnesses that people had. And he suffered with this. There are hundreds of thousands of stories. 1 million Marines went through Camp Lejeune.
Wow.
And I stayed up all night preparing for this last night, and I was watching a movie. And I was watching something that Dan Rather did years ago. I think it was 10 years ago. And the name of his segment was A Few Good Men, A Lot of Bad Water.
Oh.
Okay? That should tell you a lot right there. But don't make any assumptions. You call me, you're going to get free advice. Here's the other beautiful thing I have to share with everyone. And then I want you to keep on asking me questions. It's not going to cost you anything out of pocket for me to help you. Mm-hmm. Nothing out of pocket. It's beautiful. I'm going to get a percentage and we can talk about that. We'll do all the research. We do all what is necessary. We'll put that out of our pocket. Okay? I get paid when you guys get paid or your family gets paid. But this is the first time ever. And now we're 2 months now. All we have now is a year and 10 months within which to file a claim. Time flies. Don't wait before it's too late. Now's the time to do something. Please, for you and your family. Please. Okay? There's no cap on this. I hear lawyers saying, oh, well, a certain amount has been set aside. No, there's no cap. This is not insurance. It's unlimited. Unlimited amount. It's whatever they settle for or what a jury will decide to give you or a family member or both or a friend. Okay? And I said it once, I'll say it again. I'm the best gift you could give your family and your friends. And I'm not bragging about this because, again, I've done my best to become an authority on this, and you want to know about it. That's why I encourage all of you to call 757-787-2222. Sorry, I get carried away. I'm very emotional about this. But I had an epiphany, and I feel like this is one of the reasons I'm on earth right now.
Well, Lawrence, you've devoted your life right now to helping the victims of this atrocity that the government knew about. Over 1 million soldiers alone, Marines alone, affected by this. Or, I saw a show the other day, a pre-recorded show. It's produced a couple of years ago, And this Marine actually had cancer. This happened this last weekend, Lawrence. A TV show. He was a witness on a crime investigation show, and said he was at Camp Lejeune. And here we are, folks. A lot of things are coming to light these days. I'm impressed that this administration passed such legislation, and I'm glad to hear it. It sounds like a lot of lives have been affected. What are some other stories you've come across?
That was bipartisan support, by the way. Republicans and Democrats voted for this.
Wow.
Why? Why did they do this? Because they knew it was the right thing to do, finally, after all these years, because this was covered up. This was covered up. And I've watched one article. I've been watching everything I can, and it's just a shame. These people suffered. I was watching, listening to a Marine talk about what happened. He had a 6-year-old daughter who got leukemia, and that was big. Leukemia for children, big, big, big. And so for children, you know, cancer usually takes a very long time for people to know that they've got cancer because of no symptoms. Okay, so it can be years and years. And so for people who've been to Camp Lejeune or their families or friends or whatever, they're quick to say, well, they have no symptoms. And again, I have to tell you, you got to get to a doctor. A lot of people have problems as a result of the contaminated water from Camp Lejeune and don't know it. So don't convince yourselves because you're not showing any symptom that you're okay. Okay. It's very important. What we do is we have to file these things with a certain period of time. What we don't want is we want that 2-year period to go by, and now it's a year and 10 months. We don't want that to go by, and the next day you find out that you got brain tumors, and you got cancers, and on and on and on and on. I mean, male breast cancer was prevalent of people who were there. But it is just, there's so much information, and I'm trying to get that out as quickly as possible. So I just, and please, if you feel like you just don't want to do it for yourself, do it for your family. Okay? Do it for your family. Because these cases are worth millions of dollars, and these children and these grandchildren are suffering because they didn't have the guidance of parents because they died young. And the money is there, and Congress and the president have decided that you're entitled to this money. Okay? So let us do everything for you. I tell people we're going to do practically 100% of everything for you. We'll figure it out, but you have to call. Okay?
You know, there's no bad questions. There's no, no such thing. You know, my father died of a brain tumor when he was 30 years old. I only wish he would have gotten checked out, you know, just to be on the safe side when he very first, started having, some illness and some symptoms. But folks, you know what? Money can never take the place of a life, but the substantial amounts of money that are being offered to people who have been victimized by this atrocity will change lives for generations. And again, people help people who help people. I like interviewing people like you, Lawrence, because you help people, and the people you're going to help, I know, are going to help people too, folks. Some remember the movie Aaron Brockovich and how, big corporations wanted to hide that, they knew what was going on. Some of you are familiar with the Hayesville, Kansas issue, with dry cleaning chemicals in the water and how it caused cancer and all that. But you know what, Lawrence, you're not just someone who's encouraging people to call so that you can help them. You have more expertise than the average lawyer out there talking about Camp Lejeune because you were associated with the very people who helped get this legislation passed. Why don't you tell the viewers about that?
Sure. I'm part of a team, and it's interesting. One of the lawyers who I've been working with for some time on a number of cases happens to be, he was a captain at Camp Lejeune during that time period. He's now a lawyer. He's one of my very close friends. That's part of the team. And the other part, another gentleman who's part of the team is one of the gentlemen who was on the forefront of developing this law and fought forever to get it passed. Wow. So we are at the epicenter of these cases. Okay. You're going to hear a lot of lawyers out here who tell you one thing or another, and there's a lot of advertising because there's a lot of money out here. But I'm telling you right now, you couldn't have a better team helping you than the team that I'm associated with. So I encourage you. And again, this is me telling you from the heart, because I had an epiphany a while back when I heard about this 60 days ago. And I've learned more than you can imagine. And I'm telling other people about it. I said, please. And I'll give you another story. I've got someone who called me. This person was referred to me because I have a monthly radio show as well. And they called me up and they said, look, I called, 3 lawyers and they all say they can't help. Really? I said, let's talk about it. My husband has 4 tumors. He was at Camp Lejeune during that period. And for whatever reason, they turned that case down. I said, I can't wait to meet him. I can't wait to meet him. And again, people get very emotional about this. I do too. So, but, I can turn these things around. And so it's amazing what can happen. And again, this is new law. There's so much to know. And there's a lot of things that people don't know because it's so new. That to me is it's so important to get this word out. Folks have been pushing hard for years to try to get something done. And denial after denial. Well, I just saw something else last night that they said what happened was every time that they pushed hard, they denied until the people died. That's what happened.
It's very unfortunate.
This is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Well, your heart is connected to this, Lawrence. You're passionate about it. And folks, you know what? Don't just call anyone advertise. Someone that's not connected to this with their heart, they see an opportunity, but they don't educate themselves. Go to the source. Go to the man that was associated with the people that had the legislation passed and get the answers you need from someone who really cares. We've said before, there's people who love things and use people. We've seen a lot of that in the news. But Lawrence, I'm happy to say that you're a new friend of mine and you're one of those people. You love people and you use things. And being associated with these people who have brought this great legislation, help bring it to pass. I know your heart is really connected to it. No one knows more about it than you do. And you have your team on standby. And it's not just those, again, folks, we want to remind you, it's not just those who served at Camp Lejeune. It is, tell them about it, Lawrence.
It's the people who were not only stationed, and remember now, we had 1 million come through there, but it's their families. And again, I have to keep on saying, don't convince yourself that you don't have a claim. And we're talking about a claim now, filing a claim, not filing suit. Right. Once you file a claim, because everyone's talking about filing suit within a certain period of time, you have to file a claim because a lot of these things can be worked out without filing suit. Because a lot of people say, hey, I'm too old for that. No, you're not. We'll file claims and then try to get these things settled for you. Okay. I want you to know that. So that's how this all works. So please, I keep on encouraging people. You just have to call me. Okay. We have experts. We have experts to figure things out. Okay. Let us tell you whether or not you have a claim. And you'd be amazed how often people have claims that didn't think that they did. And a lot of people are just saying that, again, I don't want to mess with this. I'm too old. Well, why not? Again, this can help you through hard times. This can help your family through hard times. And that's what happened. So often these people died young. And so they didn't have the wisdom that we try to impart to our children. And so what happens? They go down a different path very often, or they're barely getting by. No more.
This is going to change lives.
No doubt. Once in a lifetime. And I keep on saying the same thing, and I know I'm repeating it, but I'm repeating it for a purpose, because this is the first time you're hearing probably someone talk to you at length about this, because you're hearing people who are doing ads on TV who have no association with. These are just professional talkers reading whatever the script is. I don't have a script in front of me. This is from the heart. This is everything that I've learned, and I'll share it with everyone. And one thing you're going to find is we're going to be totally honest with you with everything that we do. Totally honest with you.
Well, folks, you know what? Attorney Lawrence Sland can help you and those you love, those you know, even acquaintances. If you find out they had anything to do with Camp Lejeune, they need to call. I've had hours of conversations with you, Lawrence, and I love who you are, and I know that you love people and you really care. And there's no better person to call than you about this matter. We need to do more shows. I want to keep up with you on this. Folks, the number's been at the bottom of your screen the entire time. Make contact with Attorney Lawrence Land today, and we'll talk to you next time.
Yep. And I encourage you to call me. You can call me anytime, 24 hours a day. How's that? 757-787-2222. Easy number to remember as well, but write it down. Put it in your phones. Put Camp Lejeune in your phone and then put 757-787-2222. You'll hear my name over and over again.
Well, we'll be talking to you
much.
again. Thank you, Lawrence Land.
Thank you, Brant.
Hey friends, this is Brant. You know, years ago, I discovered a secret that enabled me to navigate this reality, to live a fearless life, free from anxiety, where nothing was impossible for me. That's how I live, and that's what I want for you. If you want to have a fearless life, free of anxiety, to live in joy and success and fulfillment, walking out your destiny and living out your purpose, you got a better chance of doing that if you read The Red Pill Prophet on Amazon.com. Get it in your hands. The truth of the Red Pill Prophet on Amazon.com.